And in many of the areas where people might not be too friendly to us, we're running into problems. I'm just wondering, you know, with everything tied in from our national security to our military or what have you, how vulnerable, and I realize that you don't have all of the answers, but it would appear to me that the first thing you would attack would be our communication system.
That's correct. And fortunately, the Internet was specifically designed with that in mind.
How?
Well, the best example is actually the 9/11 attacks. The fiber optic cables, for instance, that went through that part of New York, they were all severed. Telephone service was taken out. Entire centers, actually, let me just mention the New York Stock Exchange. They, because of good business planning ahead of time, they had a remote site in New Jersey ready to go.
Okay.
They'd been paying thousands of dollars a month to maintain this alternate trading site so that when the first site went down, they were able to switch over to the other site.
Okay.
Now, the Internet routed around the damage. The way the Internet is set up, it's a web, and so if you take out a piece of it, the traffic just routes around it.
Okay.
So it can tolerate destruction of a center, but the businesses themselves then need to plan for how they're going to restore their own services.
Okay. Well, in other words, it was built for just such a problem as terrorist attack,
Exactly.
or a nuclear attack.
Or nuclear attack.
Yeah, right. Red Boucher, don't go away. We'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes.
Think you've had a long day? Try this after your 8 to 5. Tracy Womack, coach, mentor, all-round good sport, and all-round good stockroom clerk at ACS.
Neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend, providing Alaska one-to-one communications since 1968. The Tell-Alaska family of companies.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the world-famous Malamute Saloon. We're gonna give you some service with a smile.
It isn't the gold that I'm wanting, so much as just finding the gold.
Bob Miller, reader of Robert Service poems. Bob Miller, account executive, ACS.
Thank you very much for being with us this evening. Thanks. Hey, thanks for coming out and seeing us.
Did you know that immigrants in America have the same rights as people born in this country? I'm Joan Chen. If you're an immigrant, you have rights when looking for a place to live. It's against the law for anyone to deny you housing because of your nationality. If you think you've been discriminated against, contact HUD. You can file a complaint or learn more about fair housing law protections by calling 1-800-669-9777. HUD is on your side.
Scott, we were talking about security on the Internet. Now, how does that affect, let's say, the average consumer who maybe want to do some Christmas shopping at Amazon.com, buying a book, or more and more people are purchasing online? Is that secure?
That's an interesting question. Anytime you give your credit card number out, you want to know who you're giving it to, whether you're on the Internet or if you're in a restaurant or whatever. It's basically the same. There's a lot of concern about Internet traffic in transit. In other words, when you put in your credit card number in your browser, you see that little lock at the bottom that indicates it's being encrypted as it travels on the Internet. That's a very good thing. But really the bigger concern and the more likely avenue of attack is somebody that breaks into the site on the far end and steals the entire list of credit card numbers from there. Okay. And there's been cases where, you know, hundreds of thousands of credit card numbers have been stolen all at once. A company like Amazon.com actually will guarantee you that if your card number is stolen, they'll reimburse you.
Okay.
That's actually very good.
Is that something you should be looking for? In other words, when you purchase, say, that your credit card is secure?
Yes, actually the credit card companies themselves have been addressing this lately.
Okay.
It used to be that if you used a debit card on the internet, that there was no limitation of your liability. If somebody stole, wiped out your entire bank account, you were just out the money.
Wow.
But Visa and MasterCard and the large companies now, they will guarantee anything above $50, just like regular credit cards. So it isn't that great of an exposure. The bigger problem is like what the terrorists did, though, of identity theft, where they basically assume your identity, they use it to earn money or to defraud other people. They then use that money for illegal purposes, and the money's harder for the government to trace and all that sort of thing. So there needs to be some work on exactly securing our identities. I don't particularly have the answer to that. Greater people than me are working on the problem.
Well, what do you talk? Identity theft. Let's, you know, I've heard that word kicked around. I can understand what a credit card is, but
well,
identity theft.
Yeah, it's easy to steal a password, for instance, and it's easy to steal a credit card number. But what isn't so easy to steal is your thumbprint. We need to move to systems that better verify exactly who the person is as they're performing a transaction.
Well, I think my company, one of the ones I'm associated with, Compact, has actually got
a
thumbprint program that you've got to sign. That makes a lot of sense.
They do. That's great.
We got about a minute. Is there anything else you'd like to cover in our...
Well, I actually brought a prop here. I just mentioned this. This is something that just illustrates how far an electron can travel in 1 nanosecond.
What's a nanosecond?
What's a nanosecond? That's the question I wanted to hear. People talk about 1 gigahertz processors, and that's you know, the 1 GHz speed of a computer. That means that a billion times a second the computer is actually performing some function for you. Well, if the electron can only travel this far in that amount of time, in 1/1000th of a second, it's pretty high-tech stuff. But my point would be that really the speed of the computer isn't even really the issue. It's the planning of how you're using systems. You can take a bad business process and automate it and have a very efficient mess on your hands. The upfront planning is really the key, and that's one thing InfoTech Alaska specializes in, is helping people up front decide how they're going to best use technology.
How do they get in touch with you?
Our website is www.infotechalaska.com. That's INFOTECH Alaska.com. And that's the best way to reach us.
Okay, well, Scott, it's just wonderful, and it's particularly wonderful to see a young man back in '67 when you and your dad and Todd and the rest of the family came up here to be participating and involved. Good luck to you and InfoTech Alaska and Tiffany. Great to have you on. And for you folks out there, thanks for being with us. Goodbye, and God bless.